All right, so Q has collected some questions that would be great for us to discuss. What do we have first, Q?
Your passion for entrepreneurship and innovation is clear. How do you keep yourself motivated in the fast-paced world of startups? And what advice would you give to other entrepreneurs to stay driven and creative?
How do you stay driven and how do you do it, Becca? And what advice would you give?
Honestly, I am so inspired by innovation, and especially through Startups.com, where I've been an advisor for the last couple of years. I never get bored talking to founders and hearing their ideas. And will all of them make it? No. I mean, that's the reality of what we do. But I just love creativity and innovation and supporting founders in those stages. It's hard. Don't get me wrong. It is a roller coaster. I mean, it is extremely isolating and at times overwhelming. We talk about the health of founders a lot, at least within startups, because sometimes we put our health last and we know that that will not serve us well in the long run. It's, I think, lonely, especially if you're in the early stages where you don't want to share your idea with many people. One of my best tips for that stage is to create some small circle of trusted advisors that you can share it with, because otherwise it is extremely lonely. And that's one of the things that you will have to manage throughout your career as a founder, is that sort of you're pursuing this, this path that most don't. And for that reason, it can be very lonely and isolating. And if you don't create those support systems early and often, you may not be able to be successful.
It's great advice. One of the things that I share with founders, a telltale sign is, like you talked about innovation, you have to pick a problem that you'd be willing to work on for the next 10, maybe 20 years if you want to go the full cycle. And unfortunately, a lot of founders don't do that. They pick what seems to be convenient, or they pick something that's a flash in the pan. They have a moment of brilliance, but it's not something they want to stay with, because I think you could probably talk a lot about this, but the cost of opportunity, like if you imagine, Becca, you're fabulous. I'm sure you're in your early 30s, somewhere in there, and it's great. I am over the hill. I'm on the back nine, right? And my cost of opportunity is huge. If I was 20, I'd be in my parents' basement. I'd have my runway crunched down, and I would want to work on things. But if it starts to bog down, I'm not passionate about it, I am burning some of the most valuable years of my life. So the cost of opportunity starts to increase. So I can't be picky, especially now. Now, in the beginning, I can try a whole bunch of stuff, but eventually you got to settle into something, because if you're going to dedicate 10 to 20 years, and that's what a lot of the AI engineers are experiencing right now, is they're getting all this experience working for AI companies, and then they're like, I don't really like this, and do I want to spend all my time, even though I'm getting paid $300,000, $500,000 a year, do I really want to do this when I could be doing my own stuff? So that's the reason you're starting to see all that happen. So the cost of opportunity and picking, what are your thoughts in terms of, we're not spring chickens anymore, and cost of opportunity?
Yeah, it's critical. We'll never be able to create more time. At least nobody's done it yet. So time is our most valuable asset. And I think we all have to be very realistic with the opportunities that we have in front of us and the time we have. Of course, we don't know how much time we have, but we hope to, have a great long life. I think it's important to be practical. And that goes back to having a good support system, because I think one of our fatal flaws as founders and entrepreneurs is sometimes we can be too optimistic, and our passion can really kind of sort of overwhelm rationality. And we lose sight of things like, well, we need money to live. I need to pay my rent. I need to eat. I have expenses. I have all these obligations. So I think that's where having a good resource group, whether it's places like Startups.com or that circle that you develop for yourself, to be able to go through what are the practical requirements for me to live a life that will be healthy and supportive and pursue my ambition and my passions, but also, come up with a framework that will not lead me down a path that leads to nowhere. And that may be inclusive of having, specific deadlines and milestones that you achieve. Look, if my startup can't pay me within the next 2 years, then I need to get a full-time job. Or on the flip side, I have a great full-time job. I can't quit that job until this side project can generate enough revenues to support me and my expenses and my family, whatever the personal situation is.
That is it, and it changes.